You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. Today's Ohana guest is one of those athletes who has moved on to even longer ultra feats with lessons taken from the 515 distance. If you are looking for something that still scares you, maybe one of his stories will inspire you to dream even bigger. They say that ordinary people can do extraordinary things with the right mindset. But today's guest is here to show us the actual blueprints for how that's done. By day, he's a healthcare executive and an adjunct professor at Vanderbilt University. But when he steps out of the boardroom and into the elements, he transforms into a resilient endurance athlete with 35 Ironmans under his belt. We're talking about a man who finished Ultraman Florida and the World Championships in the same year, and then took his exploits even further. He was the first athlete to complete the first 5 races in the Mammoth Endurance Anvil Ultra Distance Triathlon Series. Earlier this year, he made history in Hawaii, becoming the first man and the second person to complete the Triple Maui Nui, a nonstop 3-channel swim where he spent nearly 24 hours in the water, guided by the stars, and as you'll hear, some very special deep sea companions. He is currently writing a book on this level of performance titled First to 5, the 5 Hammers of a Do Anything Mindset. He lives by the personal motto, dream big, live the dream, and share the dream. Joining us from Franklin, Tennessee, to help us hammer home what's truly possible when you harmonize body, mind, and spirit, Ted Lomicka. Welcome to the podcast.
Larry, thank you very much. It's an honor to speak to you today, and certainly I'm really excited for your vast audience and things that we can share with them.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it. This Maui Nui is something that we haven't had on the podcast before, so this is going to be a great story to hear for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I said you're from Franklin, Tennessee. Now, can I assume that is named after Ben Franklin?
That's a great question. I know it as a suburb of Nashville, and Nashville is, regarded universally as an it city. It's one of the funnest places in the United States. It's actually the bachelorette capital of America. Las Vegas still holds the best bachelor parties, but Nashville can throw a phenomenal bachelorette party.
Yeah, I've been to Nashville before, and I definitely saw a few of those when I went through town. Well, given that geography, it leads me to wonder a little bit, how does a guy living in Tennessee get to drive his car around Sebring International Raceway? I understand that's a hobby of yours.
I love that. I really do. I love intensity. And, one of my many side gigs is sports cars. I've always loved them. And so more recently, I've taken to the racetrack, and the drive down to Florida that I drove down in basically a street legal race car, and then had 2 wonderful days on the racetrack at Sebring, which is, if anybody saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari, there were 3 epic races: the 24 hours of Le Mans, 24 hours of Daytona, and the 12 hours of Sebring. So I can tell you, driving an automobile at high speeds around that track is really incredible. And I had a professional coach that was in my passenger seat, and he would shout to me through the microphone. And yes, we did have to have microphones. The fact we're just about 18 inches apart, we still could not hear each other because the engine was that loud.
Oh, wow.
And so he said to me, "Ted, full throttle. Can you hear me? Full throttle." So that full throttle, it's been a mantra for my calendar year 2026. And so far, I've done a pretty good job with it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, you seem to be a man who lives by mottos. So maybe we'll get into a few of those as well.
Right.
Getting back to your introduction, I saw that you were a graduate of Vanderbilt, and now you're an adjunct professor there.
You've got that right.
Okay. What does it mean to be an adjunct professor? Do you just kind of go back and teach one course once in a while?
That's exactly right. I teach healthcare finance, and I teach it to MBA students. I got my MBA there in 1998. I absolutely loved it. 2-year full-time experience. And I guess if I had to say, what's my love language? It's business advice. So it's really cool to come back. I got an opportunity in 2014 to be able to teach MBA students and also students getting a master's of management in healthcare. That second class is predominantly physicians and nurses, a lot of whom are professors themselves who teach clinical expertise to folks getting their credentials in the practice of medicine. It's a wonderful group. We go deep. We talk about the financial ramifications of healthcare. I spent Friday night and all day Saturday teaching that class, literally. Okay. We started at 5, we ended at 9 Friday. We started at 8 a.m., we ended at 5 p.m. On Saturday. Me is the only professor. So, that in itself is almost an endurance event of an intellectual nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. So are you the creator of the course as well? Did they come with you?
I have total discretion with the creation of the course. I'm a, financial expertise is my background. At one point for my company, Community Health Systems, I was vice president and treasurer. And I had the opportunity to help them refinance $10 billion in a single year, which was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And now I help them with innovation. So, I bring that passion that I have for business, for healthcare, and for finance. And the nexus is I get to teach that to the next generation of really smart, enthusiastic men and women that are ready to make their bold career moves and do big things in healthcare. So that's how I expand my purview and help other people have success. And that's part of my legacy. That's my dream.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. And I guess nowadays, when we're talking about finance and health, there's got to be an AI component in there. Does that fall under your course at all, or is that going to be in another area?
We talked about it. It's one of the first things I talked about, and I'm actually doing that. One of the things we're doing at Community Health Systems, we're delivering ambient AI capabilities to our physicians, which you can think of it. We used to have human scribes for some of our physicians, and now we'll have an AI scribe for essentially all of our clinic physicians. Yeah. And then we'll have that same capability for our emergency medicine physicians, our hospitalist physicians. The AI will draft their note, the physician will review that, the physician will edit that, and the physician will approve it. So it's an augmentation of human capabilities. It gives them their time back. It gives them anywhere from 30, 60 to 90 minutes back of their own personal time in the evening so that they can spend more time with their friends and family, and they love it.
Yeah, I think I was listening to a Freakonomics episode recently where they were talking about that, and they were saying that it was the time that they're getting that they can now put back into patients, or I guess into their free time if they're taking away their free time to do it. Yeah.
Two things that are beautiful about it. One, they make direct eye contact with their patient. And because they want it in the notes, they describe everything to the patient in terms of what they're thinking for the diagnosis and the prognosis, and the communication is wonderful. The patient walks out of there thinking, I've never had such a great conversation with my physician. They really care about me. They understand me, and I'm going to listen to them and do what they say. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. And instead of the physician who's listening, but writing or typing at the same time. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. You turn your back on a physician. I mean, as a physician, you turn your back on a patient and you lose them. Yeah. And make eye contact with them. You engage with them, and it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It codes for greater compliance, and we'll get better health outcomes. Better documentation is a wonderful thing as well.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit more about your full-time occupation then in career health services. Tell us what it is that you're doing as your regular full-time job.
Yeah, my regular full-time job at Community Health Systems, we own and operate acute care hospitals and health systems. So we have 65 hospitals. In terms of revenue, we're about $12.5 billion in net revenue. We're in 13 states. And I help champion innovation, which is a really cool role. I work with teams. And I have teams, and I am the conduit between our executive suite and the team, working on something that will have a major impact for the overall organization, where we're driving an improvement in patient care. We're solving for better physician satisfaction, physician recruitment and retention improving, and other important goals to us. So, we ask ourselves questions like, is it technologically feasible? Is it clinically relevant? Is it financially viable? Those are the things I'm looking for, and can we have an impact with it? Boy, if we get that, we always start thinking big. Yeah. And then we start small with a pilot project, and then we move fast by iterating these solutions and asking ourselves the question, is this truly scalable? Will it have the impact we believe it will? And if that answer is yes, then we broadly scale it. And that's what success looks like.
Yeah. When you are looking at your own life, and it sounds like you have a very kind of structured life, you live in an intellectual world. Is that something that maybe led you towards seeking the messiness of doing ultra events? Is
Well,
there
I think
anything
so.
that you need the yin and yang to balance there?
Yes, there really is. And I'm a strong practitioner. I want to really understand deeply the mind body balance. That's something that's always been passionate to me. But I mean, you look around and you say, I'm in a temperature controlled environment. It's 72 degrees all the time. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm incredibly comfortable. And I'm also, if I were to only do that, I'd have to ask myself, would I be truly fully human? And so we have these opportunities to really pressure test ourselves through endurance sports. And I think in doing that, we learn so much about ourselves. We learn so much about life when we do that. And the result is we've experienced what some people call suffering. I prefer to call it distress because we can stop that at any time.
Yeah.
But it gives us something called compassion. And that's one of these intangibles that we walk away from after completing these bigger races. The bigger the races, the bigger that impact is. We go through this personal growth. It's just so beautiful. It's bigger than simply running circles in parks, as I've done many, many times over at the Anvil.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talk about this growth mindset.
Yeah.
And in researching before doing this conversation today, I saw that one of the things for you was to rebel against your father's fixed mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you take us back to like maybe when was that turning point for you? When was the moment you realized
Oh,
that
yeah.
ordinary is not what you want?
Wow. Yeah, I was 9 years old, and I had well, 1 year prior to that, we had a country club that we belonged to, and they had a pool, and the pool had a deep end, and I remember inching myself over the wall and going deeper and deeper, and gazing back and looking at the vastness of that pool, and thinking, this is so cool. I love this. I love being in the water. And it was one of the last days before the pool closed. And I'd stayed in there almost all day. The water was not fully heated. My lips had turned blue, but I absolutely loved it. And I told my mom, I said, man, I really love swimming. And she said to me, she looked at me and she said, you can swim all day long. And I said, do you mean that metaphorically? She says, no, if you wanted to do that, you could do that. And she said, we've got to get you on the swim team. So they got me on the swim team. And so now I'm 9 years old. I'm on the swim team. And Larry, I'm absolutely terrible. I'm absolutely terrible as a swimmer. And I go and I'm in the 100, and the swim coaches recognized I didn't have much in the way of talent. And so they snuck me on to the 8 and under. And that's where I was competing. And I would do the 100 freestyle in a 25-yard pool. I would go up, back on my third lap. I would gas out.
Right.
And I would just try to make it. And it was my last meet. And my dad looked at me and he said, as he described it, he saw the lifeguard step down from the chair looking at me to see if I need to be rescued. And he said to me, he says, Ted, you can't swim anymore. I said, but Dad, I love to swim. He said, you're terrible. You're an embarrassment to the family. So I asked some other family members, I channel checked that, and they said, you love to swim, keep doing it. Mm-hmm. But that was the difference. I realized that was the difference between how my dad thought about things and how I thought about things. The club had golf. He opted not to be a golfer because he didn't believe he had a natural inclination to be a good golfer, even though his own father, my grandfather, was phenomenal at golf and absolutely loved the game. Yeah. My mother took up tennis, and he tried tennis. He got hit in the eye with a tennis ball, cut his eye, and his reaction was, okay, no more tennis for him, no more tennis for my mother. So he couldn't golf, my mother couldn't play tennis, and I couldn't swim. And yet remembers the club. All we do is get together and eat, and it was nice. So I thought of myself as a bad swimmer, and it wasn't until I got to college where I took a PE. You had to take a minimum of 2 PE classes. Tulane was where I did my undergrad. And one was ballroom dancing and the other was swimming. Mm-hmm. And the instructor measured how well you did from where you started to where you ended the class. Well, I started as horrible as I was when I was 9 years old. But I ended the class, which at the time was a beautiful S stroke with that reach and roll, that pivot, getting up on my side. And I learned a lot from that class. And I
Nice.
actually realized I love swimming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is
You
that
can
a,
learn it. It's the growth mindset. People can learn. They can learn things. If they love it, keep at it. You're going to get better.
yeah. And is that about around the same time when you started to take up Ironman then? Because you started around
So Ironman
2006,
was much later in life.
much
Yeah.
later.
I mean,
Okay.
you go and I looked at it and I said, it was 2022 when I started getting into triathlon itself. And I would do my favorite race was Music City Triathlon. And I liked another one, Memphis in May. And, that era, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, Memphis in May was where the big names for the world championship, they showed up to the race. And I'll never forget a conversation I had with Natasha Badman, Swiss Miss, and she was telling me about her cheetah, which was her carbon fiber bicycle. And I had this great conversation. I was so excited. I told my wife, I said, Michelle, I met Natasha Badman, and she told me all about her cheetah. And she says, I don't even know what that is. And had such enthusiasm. So years later, at the Ironman World Championship in 2016, I'm doing the event. My wife volunteers. She works a couple extra hours because she's an athlete catcher. She can only catch the women. And one of the women, she misses catching Natasha Badman in one of her last races by just two people. And
uh,
it just, full circle, right?
yeah. Oh, that's great. And so you've done, I said in the introduction, 35 Ironman races, and like
I've
most.
done 35, Ironman branded Ironman races, and I'm one shy of an even 3 dozen. And
Mhm.
so, gosh, I really hope Chattanooga 2026 Ironman
Yeah.
September. That would be the capstone in that quest to get an even 3 dozen.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, now you're getting ahead on my questions because I want to ask what's coming up, but you're jumping ahead on me. But like most Ironman athletes, at some point you start, well, what's bigger? And you find out about Ultraman. You take off to Florida again and participate in Ultraman Florida, and it was a fairly big field that year when you did it. I was looking at your results right now, and
Yeah,
it looks like you're that mid pack guy. You're doing
I
great
am.
in the results. Yeah, and then you moved on to the World Championships in the same year.
I did.
Swim slightly slower as it is in that
Yeah.
swim, but you became the last official finisher at that
I
race.
was.
So tell me, you go back to Florida first, and maybe
Yes.
the World Championship. Tell me some of the highlights of what you took out of that. That's leading you now into the Five
Yeah.
Hammers too.
Oh, you got it. You got it. So, my athletic ability is absolutely ordinary, right? And I've been able to do some extraordinary things, and that's attributable to my mindset. I really loved when Iron Man came out and said, we have a legacy program. And our legacy program is if you do 12 Ironman branded finishes, we're going to let you in the big show. You'll get into the world championship.
Right. Yeah.
And I was training with some buddies of mine. We were really into that. It sounds wonderful. So we upped our ante. Instead of doing one a year, I started doing two a year, sometimes three a year. I had one year I did four a year. It was just a little too much travel, a little too much expense. Ironman became my quarterly test of fitness, which was really cool, but it was just a little too demanding.
Yeah.
So I dialed that back, but I went and I did that Ironman World Championship, and that was a highlight, and I loved it. 5 years of just building those. That actually was my 21st iron distance triathlon when I finished that, and it was epic, as it is for everybody that gets a chance to do that great race. And I realized, with the legacy, they give you one chance. You can't come back with the legacy. And so I looked at it and I said, I love this experience of doing this epic triathlon, this world championship in Hawaii, and I'm locked out. I can't go back to that. What else do I have as an option? And that's where I stumbled on this other race. This little known Ultraman, which your audience knows incredibly well, so many of them have lived in, and it's just remarkable. And I looked at it, and there was, as I was reading about it, they said that this race will challenge you physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I looked at that and I said, fantastic. I'm really worried about the physical aspect, but that's only 1/3 of the race. And maybe in these other two things, maybe that's where I can really excel. And so I was really jazzed by that. And I, lo and behold, I said, I'm going to try it. My very first Ironman was in Florida, so it just was fitting for my very first Ultraman to also be in Florida. And I had a great time, really gelled with the crew, had a wonderful crew, loved the experience, finished the race, which was incredibly remarkable for me to be able to get across that finish line. That was the longest run I'd ever done in my life, that double marathon. And I picked the best runner, my good friend Vance Poss. And his legs were feeling pretty weak at 47. I had him ride in the car. So on my own effort, I could do the last part. But it did, leave a question in my mind. The best runner I know is in the car right now. How am I going to do in the next 7 miles? And I did really well, got it under that threshold. And then went to the big show in Hawaii and absolutely lived a dream. I spent so much, it occupies a lot of space in your mind. It's a lot of real estate. And there's not a single day of my life that's gone by since I finished that race that I don't reflect on a moment of those wonderful experiences of swimming, biking, and running in that most epic of races.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the spiritualness of the Hawaiian island as well, what are the really lasting memories? What are the stories that you find yourself telling over and over again about doing that race?
Yeah. I mean, when I was swimming in the water and the sun peeked out over the top of the volcano and the beams of light hit that beautiful blue water and they go down and you've 200 feet of visibility. So you can see these beams dancing and moving in that shimmering water as you go. And I said, I know that's music. I know that's music and I know that's a beautiful sound. And it's such a wonderful feeling to be swimming here about a half mile off the shore on this 6.2 mile journey to parts unknown. And it was so cool. And I thought, Dimmy Beach, this is where we start Ironman. And I remember turning around at Ironman and coming back, but I really wanted to continue. Here I get to continue. And we get off our bike, we ride our bike, and we, I kid you not, as you know it, we ride up the side of the volcano.
Yeah.
That is the coolest thing.
Well, over the past few years since COVID, you've been very busy taking on marathon swims and the anvil races, which has inspired you to write this book and do the Triple Maui Nui swim. The anvil races are tied to your book, so perhaps we can discuss those first and then move on to this nice big swim and take you back to Hawaii again at that point. Yeah. So,
that'd be great.
So your book is called First to Five, which is a slightly controversial topic around Ultraman World last year, but yours is built around the 5 hammers of the
different race series. That's right.
Yeah, do anything mindset. Before we break them down individually, can you just explain what does the First to Five in relation to the Anvil Race Series mean?
Yeah, the Anvil Race Series. It got its start. It was about a couple years offset. It's actually started around 1985, if I think, around that circa 1985. So we were 78 for the Ironman World Championship, but it's a group of guys, former military guys, and they said, man, look what's going on in Hawaii. That's really cool, the distances they're doing. Let's do multiples of those distances. And I just thought that was such an outrageous idea to do multiples of the Ironman distance, and yet they do it. Yeah. And so it was the triple that really I heard of people doing the triple, and I said that's incredibly outrageous. I would love to do that.
Yeah. So the 5 though is in relation to doing like a single, a double, a triple, a quad, and the quint. That's the 5, right?
You've got it right. And so the distances, you start with the one, everybody knows that's 140.6. The double is 281.2 miles. The triple, 421.8 miles. The quadruple, 562.4 miles. And then the quintuple, 703.0 miles. It's basically like a half Ironman without the decimals.
So you've been the first person to do all five of those. That's what our first to
I've been the
five
first
represents.
person to do all five of those hammers in the Anvil Race Series, which
In the
is the
Anvil Race,
American
right.
Race Series.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking to see if I'm the first in the world. I can tell you this: there have been 29 men who have done the um, the 4X. So the quadruple has been done by 29 men. So the question is, have any of those 29 men done one? Probably. Two? Probably. Have they done the three and the five? I don't know. We're searching that. So,
Okay.
but I can claim the title for the first at the Anvil Series. They haven't hosted the quadruple that frequently. There were actually two of us, and I was able to get the win, and it was a wonderful experience.
All right. Well, that makes it definitely very unique, and it gives you the opportunity to take that analogy into your books here. So tell us, how did you decide to take the hammer analogy and place that in with your book?
Yeah, it was really a matter of practicality. So Ivan Pancic is my one-man show in terms of my crew. So he does logistics, he does race support, he does a wonderful job of finding how the strategy should change in terms of pacing, diet and nutrition during the race. He is just wonderful, but he also does the sports psychology as well. And so he comes up in each of these races. I've showed up to the race and he says, okay, the mindset, what you need to get through this race is this. And it's been spot on. And I call them high performance affirmations forged at the Anvil Ultra Distance Race Series. And there are 5 of them.
Right. Well, let's take a look at each of the 5 hammers that we have then. Please don't give away too much, because we want people to get your book. But let's give them enough of a tease so that they're interested.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll give you each of the 5 ones. And so I named them. I gave each of my 5 hammers, because at the end of the anvil, they give you a hammer and they have an anvil out in front of you. And you strike that anvil once for every multiple of the iron distance that you just completed.
Right.
I like to do them in continuous fashion. You can be doing one per day, but I like continuous.
Right. Okay.
And they say this, if you accidentally hit it with one more strike than what you did, they send you back out on the course. So you want to have that excellent precision and a really good means of accurate counting.
Yeah, you don't want that little bounce in there.
No, you don't. Don't bounce that.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So
the number one hammer.
The number one hammer, I named it the hammer of passion, because passion is that absolute skill that you have to have. And I've seen people go incredibly big with passion. And I describe passion as why that's important. It's the mindset that gives you the opportunity to harmonize spirit, mind, and body to optimize human performance. Think of that as flow state. That's passion.
Yeah.
And you've got to have your why. That's passion.
Yeah.
You've got to have passion. The root word is suffering, right? And so you're going to suffer that day. So, you've got to think, you've got to have that why. That why's got to be really powerful to keep you motivated. Passion for purpose.
Yeah. Well, when I was reading that title, I was thinking, is this your modern application of Plato, or perhaps Marcus Aurelius in the Stoics? Is there something there for your
I almost think it's too. Yes, I think that's right. I think, when I look at myself and, going through this personal growth and development, one of the things I've wanted to be is, trying to find, let's be more human, right? Let's experience things like suffering and distress, and let's manage that. That's an integral part of the human condition. And, in this wonderful, comfortable office, I just don't get enough of that.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm after. But so, is it stoic or is it emotive? I would say it's more emotive. That passion comes from a deep driven emotive desire. And we can then channel that into the other facets. What's the intellectual component of that? What's the spiritual component of that? Let's pull it all together and let's use that to drive us forward continuously until the job is done.
And I guess that also relates back to the appeal you found in Ultraman, because they said they were going to challenge those 3 things.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And if you think about it from an athletic flow state, it's the alignment of those things you've got the mind, body, and spirit. When those align, the athlete can get into that flow state. And so you have to have that unifying passion that creates that harmony between all three of those realms.
Mm-hmm. And of course, with the Ultraman, you have a crew that's helping you out. And maybe this relates to your hammer number 2.
Hammer number 2 is the hammer of humility. You're taking a step beyond what we know as the Ironman distance, and you're stepping beyond. And for me personally, look, I've seen people go all the way. I've watched people complete a DECA, which is a 10x, 10 times the iron distance on nothing other than passion. And it is absolutely beautiful to witness. But I needed something more. And so for me, that hammer of humility, here's how I describe it. It's an attitude. Give thanks and receive your positive mental attitude. Continually give thanks. Start with your crew. Thank them for what they do. They're there for you. It's their blood, sweat, and tears too, and they're pouring their heart out so you can have an opportunity to be here. They deserve a thank you, and a thank you from the bottom of your heart. And when you do that, you recognize that what they're doing is part of it. This is their win as well. This is their success as well. It's really important to recognize that and to give that tribute. But simply saying thank you resets your mental state into one of appreciation that wires you for a positive mental attitude. The small things that happen that are big distractions that could start to build up as this wall of negativity never starts to form. Mm-hmm. If all you do is start with that sense of appreciation and say to yourself, I'm just so glad to be here. And I've done that on many races. And I've used these, I use these hammers over and over. It was the quadruple where I was running so late at night and I'm on the course and I've got, just some phenomenal people that I'm running with, Josh and Michelle and Gerard and all these phenomenal people. And I'm just so delighted to be here with them. Their athleticism so dwarfs mine. And yet here I am right there with them step by step. And such a beautiful thing. I'm so fortunate to be here. And some of these things like, yeah, sure, my feet hurt, but it's an honor to be in this presence of these great people.
Yeah. Well, moving on to hammer number 3, it says, hammer of mindfulness. Don't dwell on the past. Don't fret on the future. Just live in the moment. And now right away when I read that, I thought of Neil deGrasse Tyson, who often says, we are prisoners of the present, stuck between the past we cannot reach and the future we cannot know.
That's correct.
That sounds like the exact same quote.
I love that. I mean, the man is absolutely right, and he knows it, right? E equals MC squared, right? So you've got Einstein that solved for this for us, but time and space, they're relative, my friend. And so you've got the past that we can't get back to. We've got the future. We can't step in there. They are actually there if you listen to what Einstein has told us. That's the even wild thing. We can't access them, but they are there. Yeah. And yet, I kid you not, we still have free will. And the other thing, we can turn this into a mantra. You're absolutely right. You read it out in full, the hammer of mindfulness. Don't dwell on the past. Don't fret the future. Just live in the moment. And let me truncate this so it becomes a mantra. Don't dwell. Don't fret. Just live. Tell that to yourself over and over in your next race. Forget about the distance you've already completed. Forget about the distance you will yet complete. Stay in the moment. And, I use I really love physics. And so I use this concept there's the human brain, you can think of it as 3 parts. You've got the subconscious, the conscious, and metacognition. And so in the triple in particular, it's so long and it happens all at once. There's very little time to rest. I had 90 minutes. That was it. Yeah. And it gets overwhelming really fast. And so in order to stay in the moment, your subconscious will ask you, when will this race be done? And so I can hit it back with that physics construct, never. This moment never goes away. This moment is eternal. Yeah. And just enjoy it. Yeah. And then I reflect, I said, at some future point, we're going to look back on this moment and we're going to be so pleased with ourselves from breaking through a barrier of what we thought was impossible. And we're going to reflect on this moment and we're going to try to relive that moment and as vivid a memory as we can. And I tell my subconscious, is this that memory? And if we're experiencing it in all its glory, that's what we want to feel.
Yeah. And I think that all ultra athletes have gotten comfortable with being in the moment, being with the pain, and actually enjoying, recognizing that they're alive because that's the moment they're in.
That's correct. And so we don't train so we don't feel the pain. We train so we tolerate it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that goes a little bit into Hammer 4 then. Why don't you introduce us to Hammer 4?
I love this one. This is the hammer of equanimity. And so equanimity, we want to stay cool, calm, and collected. We want to let distress become eustress. Eustress is a word we don't hear much of. EUSTRESS, good stress.
Mm-hmm.
So here's how I get there, right? It's easy to think of distress, bad stress, and it almost feels like a lateral move to move bad stress into good stress. But once we've done that, we're still stressed. We actually then take it the next level and we stay calm, cool, and collected. We just chill. And so I used this, I had 11 miles to go at the quadruple, and Latasha James was ahead of me by more than a mile, just barely over a mile. It's a 1 mile course, so I see her run by, and she was sponsored by Trek. She worked for Trek because Trek values her. The CEO of Trek came and showed up at that race with 25 people, unbeknownst to her.
Oh,
they
that's
put
awesome.
a chart together. They took turns running with her. They were so happy. And every time I passed them, I said, congratulations. It was such a wonderful thing to see. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And Ivan said, I really need you. You can do it. You can get out. You can get out ahead. And I said, Ivan, I don't know if I want to do that. He says, yeah, I want you to do that. And I realized he wants me to do that. And I said, it's probably a smart thing for me to do because I need a carrot to run after. I can get this. It'll be a finish, right? It's a 2-person triathlon. It's my opportunity to get a win. and I think I can do it. The danger if I don't, and I'm by myself, and I'm running tight on time, if I didn't have a goal and I started to slow walk it, I could just simply allow that time to erode by. I may not finish. So I realized my best chance of a finish was to get the overall win, which is kind of a funny thing in triathlon. And when they get small, it can be real. But I remember sitting in the chair, I was resting my legs, getting a little bite to eat, and we were talking about this construct. This is where equanimity happens, calm, cool, and collected. There goes Latasha James and a crew of 5 people. And you can make it, and you'll pass her in about 8 miles of the 11 miles that remain in this race. And I just sat back, and I was eating my Cliff Bar, and I just took a few more bites, totally relaxed, realizing every second I wait is a second I have to run faster. And I was totally cool with the concept. And got ahead and just in the last 3 miles. And it was just really just an amazing moment to be able to finish that race, to use that skill set. I did meet at a healthcare conference, or actually, I'm sorry, a financial conference. I did meet a man who wrote a book. He was a monk, and he was a practitioner of mindfulness and did a wonderful job of applying it to business. So after he gave a 1-hour lecture, I asked him afterwards, I said, what do you know about equanimity? And he looked at me and he said, Ted, I've heard of it. I said, congratulations, my friend. You found a way to live 15 years in New York rent-free.
Well, I think, you're talking about your corporate life as well. In the corporate world, you would call that...
Oh, I've got one more hammer. There's one more hammer.
I know. We'll get to that hammer. But in the corporate world, you would call that performing under pressure, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And for you now, you seem to have adopted the idea of being able to be calm, cool, collected. It's going to carry over to the workplace. Where did it start? Which one did you start to develop this construct from, this motto?
It was really 2018, and the 2018 was a big break for me professionally. That was my pivot from going from vice president and treasurer to vice president and all things, special projects for the CFO that morphed into innovation. And so it was a different mindset and a different skill set. Treasury, it's transactional based. It has a strategic component, and then moving it over and pivoting into innovation, which is certainly very creative. It has its underpinnings in finance, but it takes a lot of creativity. More important, it's working with teams. And so it's a matter of being really effective and working with people, putting together teams and having everybody work at their best. And so I really put a lot into it to first know myself. And so I can better then know other people and appreciate that and find and tap into what they really like and appreciate. I had always led with a kind of an intellect. And what I needed to do is realize I need a second gear. I need to be able to lead with empathy. And so, that ability to lead with empathy. So you've got more than one toolkit, because sometimes usually that's a much more effective way to engage with people. And so I've learned how to do that, learn how to get really good, really fast at teams. And the fact that when I'm doing these events, I've got a team supporting me. You get beyond the Ironman and you know your team really well. Ironman says, thank the volunteers, and we do, but man, hug the volunteers at Ultraman, hug the volunteers at Anvil, hug the volunteers who have helped you achieve a swim that was, a marathon distance. And so, that comes really easy. And so, learning these skill sets is pretty good. One of the things that Ultraman really taught me is I'm running and I'm realizing in Florida, I'm totally dependent on my team. My physical well-being is in their hands. Why would I not? And they tell you that, they will disqualify an athlete if they're abusive to any member of their team. And that's so critical. But I can't imagine doing that when my life is literally in their hands.
Yeah. And you're segueing yourself well into your fifth hammer then, where you have to listen to that voice in your head. So tell us.
Oh, it's right.
What's your fifth hammer?
Yeah, it's the hammer of transcendence. And, that means it's override your evolutionary governor. And so, when you're doing a 703-mile triathlon, which for those who have not done it, I will tell you this, is as hard as it sounds. And your body so wants to stop. And so it's a matter of saying, what does that voice in my head really want? And so that voice is trying to keep you safe, and it's trying to keep you protected. And doing a 703-mile distance triathlon is not safe. And that's not how your body stays protected. So it will tell you emphatically, stop. And then when you don't listen, it will try to trick you any way it can. And so that's this inner dialogue in your head. And you've got to satisfy that. The theme's kind of funny, but Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I love those. And so I had a box. You can get them 10 in a box, and I had 2 of them. So I had 20 of those sandwiches. And I had that in Ann Village. And it was sitting on my table of my food, and where I have everything out there. Ivan Pancic, that's where he sits and hangs out. And every time that I pass by on the bike, I can look at that and I say, there are those sandwiches. So subconscious mind, we've got all the food we need. So chill there. We got this. And it's this battle. And the other thing, one of the things I kind of watch on the run, my feet hurt, and I watch pain interval. And so, 1 and 2, largely we can ignore that. When it gets 3 or 4, it's like, ooh, that's something more serious. But if you tell your mind and have that conversation with yourself, a lot of times you can go from 4 back down to 2, where that pain really is. Mm-hmm. Your subconscious can elevate that pain artificially. Yeah. And so just, those things are really important to have that sense of mindfulness and the ability to override our evolutionary governor. It's a skill set that we can rapidly learn. And that's what I mastered on that race.
Yeah. And I think the more endurance you do, the better you're going to get at telling the difference between, yes, this is the serious, I've got to stop, versus, no, I've got a lot left. Sometimes it might be your crew that are concerned about you and be like, oh, I don't know if he should carry on. And you have to figure out like where you stand on those things. So obviously all of these different experiences, you've tuned into where your limits are.
I tell you this, I was that the run on that quintuple, it's 131 miles. And I was getting pretty close to the 100-mile mark, and I was eating one of my Uncrustable sandwiches. I dropped it on the pavement, and I was like, I do want to eat that. I want to eat it, and I need to eat it. And so I slowly reached over, and I said to my friend Josh Giger, I said, 5-second rule. He said, yeah, 5 seconds, you may need more. And I said, okay, 90-second rule. Took me a little while to pick it up. It's funny how the human body works. The muscles in movement, they work a lot better than the muscles that are not in movement.
Yeah.
But that was a cool race. I love that. We literally saw the leaves of the trees change colors during the race.
Oh,
I
wow.
had advice from a good friend of mine, Chris Stark, who's done a lot of the adventure racing. He loved that series. He did the Ecuador Eco Challenge. And he says, Ted, don't take time to shave. It takes too much time. Over the course of 5 days, that could be 20 minutes. You
Yeah.
could run a little bit more than a mile in 20 minutes. And so I grew a beard during that race.
As you should.
Right. Goes with the setting.
What was do you know the total time of that race for you?
Yeah, I do. So in that race, I finished in 125 hours, 59 minutes, 49 seconds. So call that 126 hours. We had a total allotment of 132 hours to get that finish.
Oh.
And it was really a good friend, Trixie Smith, who did a really, really impressive performance out there. And since I ran 131 miles, it was my intent when I finished to put in 4 more miles to get to the 135 mile mark, because that's the Badwater distance, right? And we know people that have done that, right? And that would be really cool. And so when I hit that hammer, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, in that 5th stroke, the spell was over. I no longer had the ability to override my evolutionary governor. And I said, I am so physically exhausted. I said, Evan, Evan Fancy, get me in the back of your car. Drive me to our cabin because I am toast. I'm done. So I wasn't able to get out there. But Trixie Smith, the time elapsed, the time ended. They took down the finish line. They took down all the tents. And my good friend Trixie Smith was still out there because he was going to finish what he started. And all of us were so impressed with that. He did not get an official finish, but he got a finish. And he was by far the athlete selected champion of that race. And we all signed his hammer personally. It was just the coolest thing we'd ever seen.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And we see that, of course, in Ultraman as well, where there are the unofficial finishers and the people that will go on to day 2 or go on to day 3, even if they DNF one of the earlier days. And that spirit of the racing is always seen there.
It's really cool. And when you think about it, you've got, aloha, ahana, kakua, those 3 concepts, you build a culture. And, my race team, they've seen it. They're like, Ted, when I thought this, it sounded a little hokey. I wasn't sure. But it works. And we absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like something that came out of California. It's a hippie.
It does. And yet it works, right?
And it works, yeah. So you've been working on writing this book now for a while.
Yeah.
Do you have a publisher? Do we have a publishing date? Do we know when it's coming out?
We do not yet have a publisher, so I'm open to publishers that would like to publish this book. The date is I'm working through chapters. There will be 10 chapters. There'll be a lead-in and 10 total chapters. I'm working on writing chapter 10 right now. So I've got more than 90,000 words. Most publishers like a book somewhere between 70 to 80, which is a wonderful thing because I'll be actually condensing and teasing out some of the best parts. So it's in terms of authoring a book, I'm at a phenomenal place. But yeah, the first to 5, the 5 hammers of a do anything mindset. When I think about it, it's really almost a book that really helps people discern what, for me is really important. How can ordinary people do extraordinary things with the right mindset? And so the book really tries to tease that out. Yeah. Most of these mindsets have really been forged in adversity. They've been proven in extremes. And I get to describe the mental framework behind what I regard as extraordinary execution, which is really predicated on having a phenomenal team. Mm-hmm. I think of it, we could also think of it kind of as a blueprint for high stakes performance with examples of how to commit deeper, take decisive action, and achieve lasting success in endurance sports, business, and other important life goals. And you'll see elements in that book that really codify my personal mantra. Dream big. There's a caveat to that. It's that dream has to be big enough to scare you. And then once you've had that dream, you've got to live that dream, and then you've got to share it with others. Because once we get to the point that we've done the things that have really given our life that sense of enrichment, we need to help other people live that same experience. And their dreams might be quite different, which is perfectly fine, but we need to help them in that regard. I'm at that point in my life where I get to help, and that's a really cool phase.
Awesome. That's great. And you're giving back is awesome too. Thank you.
Yeah, I love the opportunity to give back. And so if there's anybody in your audience that took something away from this, as I'm sure there are, that's a huge, huge win for me. It's one of the reasons I enjoy teaching so much.
We will be right back to my conversation with Ted. But first, I want to give you a quick preview of what's coming up on July 24th, which will be the final episode of Season 8. My guest in that episode is none other than Scott McDermott. Many of the listeners will know Scott from racing with him over the years. Here is a short clip of what you can expect from our conversation.
29 years old, and I felt like I was 60. And I was like, this is garbage. Like, what am I? There's got to be another way to do this. And I finally went to a doctor that just said, well, you got to eat right and exercise and take care of yourself. And I thought, well, I think I could do that. I joined a gym, met a trainer, and within 5 months, I had dropped 40 pounds of fat, put on 18 pounds of muscle, and I had a six pack, and everything was different. Everything was better. And then pretty soon, and there's 50 people in the office, and they're all kind of like walking up to my desk, like, how did you do that? Can you help me a little? Because at first they were making fun of me. Oh yeah, McDermott's gonna not eat sugar. Like they didn't believe it. But then all of a sudden you couldn't help but notice I was a completely different person. And so then I got my certifications, and then I started working in a couple different gyms in the weekends and evenings, part-time, because I loved it. And I went to a personal development course, like a Tony Robbins kind of thing, where you walk on fire and do all these things. And I came back to work on Sunday night, and Monday morning, I was like, whoosh, here's my resignation, 2 weeks from associate partner. And they were like, what are you doing? My mom was, what are you doing? My wife, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on the top of the ladder on the wrong building. This isn't what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Tune in July 24th to hear Scott talk about how his life changed after that fateful day and what he's doing. Hear about some of the challenges he has met as a result of participating in triathlon. Now, let's get back to speaking with Ted and hear about his Ultra Maui Nui swim experience. All right, well, let's get on to your big event that you took on this February, the Triple Maui Nui nonstop swim. This is across 3 highly technical channels. It goes from Lanai to Maui to Molokai and back to Lanai. Can you give us the breakdown of what this looks like, just so we're clear on what this feat is, and then we can kind of go into them leg by leg.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is a pretty arduous challenge. It is a swim, and we decided to swim it. And I took the advice, the great advice I got from so many different people. But Dr. Stephen Managula, Steve, he gave me the advice. He's from the Hawaii Channel Swimmers Association. And he said the best way to do this swim is to start on the island of Lanai, swim to the island of Maui, swim to the island of Molokai, and swim back to the island of Lanai. So that's the approach that we opted to take for this swim. It's incredibly technical in terms of the landings. The landing on Maui is absolutely beautiful. It's a picturesque beach. On a Pali beach, a lot of your viewers will probably recognize that if they've vacationed on the island of Maui. It's beautiful. Yeah. The beach, our landing spot on Molokai, was incredibly technical. Shipwreck Beach is where we landed to conclude the swim at Lanai. As the name implies, it was pretty treacherous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's break these down then one by one. The leg one, the translation for "ow ow" is take a bath. Yes. You were doing a little more than taking a bath. How'd that first leg go for you?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I would almost call this taking a bath and taking a shower at the same time. We actually started in a thunderstorm. It started with a light rain, became a heavy rain, and then it became a thunderstorm. So, this is what it looks like to really lean into your crew and accept their expertise. Because I had a 10-day window in which I was going to do this swim. Because I had, I took 2 full weeks off from my work to go to Hawaii, and that gave me 10 days to swim. And I left it up to the crew to pick the best day. Well, I call this the calm between the storms because of that 10-day window. There was only a 2-day window, really a 24-hour segment where the trade winds calmed down to the point that it looked even swimmable by a human.
Okay.
And so when the rain happened, I didn't really bat an eye because I realized I trust my crew so much that even the fact that we're now in the midst of a thunderstorm, this is still my best opportunity to finish the swim. And they told us, they were really frank with us. Captain Andy Joka, he said to us, we're watching the lightning. If the lightning comes within 5 miles of where we are right now and strikes the water, the swim is over. There's no questions asked. And I said, you're absolutely right. Safety first. We totally get it. He said, good. Now that you've heard that, as it stands right now, the lightning is actually parting where we are, and it's all around us, but it's really nowhere near us. And so there was one bolt that struck from the lead of the storm, and it struck within 6 miles of where we were swimming. But that was the closest bolt that came to us, so we had permission to continue our swim.
Oh, yeah. And you mentioned that when you're on this first leg, right now, before I get into that, as we're recording this, we just, as a civilization, have witnessed the journey of Artemis. And you reference this as part of the leg one of that overview effect that you get, that the astronauts get when they get out and see the Earth. Now, you were pretty much in the Earth, but you were getting this overview effect as well. Tell me about that connection that you had.
It's really wild. I've swam at night before, and for your viewers that haven't swam in the open ocean in the middle of the night, it's exactly like you think it is. It's very scary. The first time I ever did that was off the island of St. Lucia. I was doing a really amazing swim on the western shore, and I had 4 hours to swim after sunset of what had been more than a 10-hour swim. It was actually more than 12 hours in the total swim duration. But my good friend and swimming mentor, Katie Blair, for a short period of time, the rules will permit you to have a companion swimmer for up to an hour. And she jumped in the water at twilight as it started to get really dark. And I said, Katie, I'm so glad you're here. This will be my first time swimming at night, and I'm a little apprehensive about it. And she looked at me and she says, yeah, it's really scary. I said, Katie, why do you say it's so scary? She says, oh, come on, Ted. You can't see what's under us. We're swimming over a coral reef. You know what's there. It's scary. And I said, okay. But if she, former professional triathlete from Germany, turned marathon swimmer, as accomplished as she is, if she says it's scary, fear is the right feeling. And so I had that, and so I knew. Mm-hmm. And so here we are at, in the middle of the night at the ILL channel, in the midst of a thunderstorm. It means we have cloud cover at night. It means we cannot see the stars. And so one of the beautiful effects of swimming at night is every arm stroke that you take, you have bioluminescence from the phytoplankton that creates a burst of light. And it's beautiful. It's a vibrant blue light. And so you'll see that, and you've got basically 8 to 12 sparkles, and they look like shooting stars. So I said, all right, I don't have the stars up ahead of me in the sky. I have the stars down below. I had a companion swimmer, Terry Dietz, who started with me. The water was 74 degrees. Unfortunately, she got hypothermia and had to be pulled. And so you have a sense of loneliness without my companion swimmer. And so here I am all alone in what feels like a starry night. It's easy to get disoriented where the stars are below you instead of above you. And I see the shoreline, and I've been with my family when we've stayed on Apollo Beach, and you see the hotels, and I'm getting closer and closer, and it almost feels, as I'm getting closer and closer, that I'm being attracted to the beach almost as a gravitational effect. Mm-hmm. So it's really easy to imagine I'm an astronaut in space. A sense of loneliness, a sense of solitude and just looking at humanity and wanting to be a part of that, wanting to be part of the family, wanting to be part of my family on that beach, and having the moment of silence to reflect. That overview effect is you remember it and it changes your perception. I imagine what I'm experiencing in the water must be similar, but perhaps not as dramatic, certainly not as dramatic as
Yeah.
our astronauts have experienced it. But I can attest from my own personal experience in that limited scope, it does feel incredibly real. There's a longing and a sense of, a sense of a disconnect, and that creates this deeper longing to reconnect with humanity. Borders disappear, disputes become nothing more than futile, and that sense of compassion is what we really long for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you seem to keep coming back to that idea of the empathy, the compassion. It's a driving force for you, and I'm guessing deep in your soul that you've been living this now for a while.
I have been. That's one of the things that I've really derived from endurance sports, is this sense of connection. And, you look at a lot of religions, and suffering is an integral component, where people reach a deeper understanding of themselves and of other people. And, the root word for compassion, as I mentioned earlier, is in fact suffering. So there must be some type of connection there, because I feel it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to the second stage. They call the Pailolo. Am I saying that right? I'm not great with my Hawaiian. The crazy fisherman. So I'm wondering, did you see yourself perhaps as Santiago from The Old Man in the Sea, who keeps going out every day, getting that training, but not getting what you want, and then eventually you get into the big fight with the fish?
I love that analogy. I absolutely love that analogy. So it's tough, right? It's 34 miles. This is a 34-mile swim. And, when I made landfall on Kaanapali Beach, I had swum for 5 hours and 54 minutes before I immediately jumped into the water and started the Pelolo Channel. And I'm swimming and swimming. And my gosh, it's just a lot of swimming. I've swam 9.5 miles in the first channel. Now I'm tackling an additional 14.8 miles. This is a very, very long channel, the Crazy Fisherman. And they call it the Crazy Fisherman because it gets hit so directly by the eastern trade winds, which come in and typically blow 20 nautical miles per hour. We like to convert that to statutory miles to make sense of it. 23 miles per hour is how that converts to. Man, if you're riding your bike at 23 miles per hour, you're set up for a phenomenal race. I've never done it. I have one Ironman on my 35 where I average 20 miles per hour, but just one of those, right? So, man, that wind blows, and it really upsets the water and agitates it and creates some pretty significant wave action. So it's a long slog.
Yeah.
And as you said, I had a special set of events waiting for me at the end of that channel.
Well, tell us more about that. What was the special event?
Yeah, there are two actually. Three actually. So we get close to it, and we're almost 9 hours and 48 minutes into this particular channel. We're getting to the finish. We actually have to get out, step onto the beach, clear the high water mark, and get back in. But getting to that beach is a logistic challenge. We're in a waterway that has coral reefs in shallow water that have protrusions like fingers. We need to find a path into the beach so that the shallow water doesn't beach me and I don't get cut on the coral.
Yeah.
You almost liken it to navigating a labyrinth. If you like Greek mythology, there's a minotaur in a labyrinth I'll tell you about in a moment. But the challenge of it is finding our way through the maze. And here's the other added challenge. There is fresh water that's running down the volcanic mountain, hitting the water at the beach and entering the ocean. Because it has a lower level of salinity and it's cold, it's actually able to stay on top. Cold water typically goes below warm water, but because of the lack of salinity, it's less dense, it stays on top, and it permeates. And I'm a little bit cool at 74, the average temperature. And I can tell as we get closer, it's 72. And I can, because that's a perceptible temperature grade, is 2 degrees Fahrenheit. The human body can perceive that. And you're like, yes, I realize that. That's cold. And then it dipped again. And I said, all right, it's clearly 70 degrees. It may be lower, but I will not admit to my body that it's lower because I don't want my subconscious mind to realize it's probably colder than 70 degrees right now because that's crazy cold.
And what time of day are we arriving on the beach?
Oh, it is not yet daybreak. So we're at just before the pre-dawn at this point. We're about 6:30ish a.m.
Okay.
And we're getting closer and closer, but we have to go slow because Captain Andy Joka, he's trying to find the path in and he's trying to navigate, and we don't quite have enough light, and we're getting closer and closer. We're using some of the navigational tools from the boat. The boat told him the boat can't get close to us. So the boat told him over here, and then the boat takes off. And so the two of us, we're navigating, and as we get a little bit more and more ambient light from the sun that's not yet risen, the topography becomes a little bit more certain underneath us. Coral is incredibly sharp, and I don't want to get cut. And so Captain Andy Jacob does a wonderful job of finding me that pathway where I can walk out right out of the beach onto the sand and then clear the high water mark, which eventually I was able to do. But before I did that, I had this ominous sense almost as if I'm being watched. Molokai is such a beautiful island. Sometimes the people are not as friendly as you might find in some of the other islands. So sometimes I say Molokai, it's the opposite of aloha. So, I wondered if that might be some of the foreboding experience that I have, but I thought, no, maybe it's something a little bit more real. My boat crew was able to see it. It was a shark fin, and my boat crew knows sharks incredibly well. I've got some phenomenal swimmers on that boat crew. And so they know what they were looking at. I'd like to believe it was a bull shark because bull sharks love brackish water. In all likelihood, it could have been a tiger shark, but it was probably a Galapagos shark just getting an early bite in the morning. So, clearly swam amongst that shark, at least one. And so there's the Minotaur reference. Minotaur in Greek mythology. It's the body of a man, the face of a bull, the tail of a bull. And so, the question is, who's the Minotaur, right? I've got a body of a man. Maybe I've got the face of a bull.
Yeah, there was definitely one creature in that labyrinth.
There was. Deciding who the monster was. Yeah, that's the challenge for us, right?
All right.
So when I'm on the beach, that was the darkest moment. I come out of cold water and look, I can hold my own with a shark because I can look a shark in the eye. And we can have that heart to heart. And I've had to do that before on one of my swims, not this swim, but another swim with an 8-foot hammerhead shark. But the thing that's really important is to also realize there's laws of physics that are immutable, and that's entropy, and that's what makes the water cold. And that means the warmness of my body is going into the Pacific Ocean. And that's something I can't control. And so that takes a toll. And I try to forestall that for as long as I could. But when I got out on the shore of Molokai, I said to Captain Andy, Andy, I think I'm done. Look, I've swam 2 channels and I feel like this is complete. And I'm walking back in and I'm walking back into the water. I'm starting to eat one of my Cliff Bars. And he looked at me and he says, Ted, think about how you feel right now. And then think about how you'll feel for the rest of your life when you finish this swim. Mm-hmm. And that was just such a beautiful, short, concise speech. And from that, I start with my swim and I do 1 stroke of a butterfly. And then I start with a really nice, strong freestyle and I set it. And now I can just, think about and reflect on that moment. And I realize he's absolutely right. I need to do this for myself. But more important, I need to do it for him and everybody else that's on that boat, that's here with me, that's endured a pretty heroic night, thunderstorm, coldness, getting doused with the rain, being rocked at the boat all night long. And they're here and they're here for me now. And they want nothing more than to see me do this finish. And so the Kolohe Channel, I did that for my crew.
Mm. Yeah, and I guess that's, you overrode the governor on that one,
I sure
but
did.
it needed a little extra prodding.
It
The
really did. And Captain Andy, I got to give, credit where credit's due. He knew, and Tina Neal, everybody has funny roles on the boat. And Tina Neal was my feeder. And she makes sure I have the food, the water, and the nutrition and what I need. But she also knows, because she's done this, she is one of the world's best Hawaiian Channel swimmers. Um, she knew, and she told Captain Andy this. She said, when Ted gets to this island, he is mentally going to be done. You've got to say something to him concise, clear, give him the choice. And then hopefully, if you said it right, he's going to continue swimming.
yeah. And I've talked to other ultra athletes about this, and particularly when you're doing a thing like an anvil and you're doing loop and loop and loop and loop.
Yes.
Just having that finish of a loop every time you have to overcome. Now I got to go do another one, right? And
right.
Has that strengthened you to be able to get off that beach? Is like, yeah, it's a marker, but it's not the finish line.
It's a lot of mental fortitude. It really is. It's a lot of mental fortitude, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So absolutely, yeah. And I listen to people, and I tell my kids this. You get to choose your friends, and you're the average of your 5 closest friends. And so choose wisely. And so, on this Triple Maui Nui swim, not only do I have Tina Neal, she's one of 5 people who has swam a channel called Ali Nui Ha. That is a channel swim that goes from the Big Island to the island of Maui. It's 31 miles in incredibly treacherous water, where that channel instantly can just shift on a dime, and it can be incredibly violent, tumultuous water. And she's done it. Mike Spalding is one of the other 5 swimmers who have done that channel. He was absolutely wonderful. He was our chauffeur when our crew flew from Oahu, landed on Maui. He was our chauffeur to help us get some food at the grocery store, pick us up. He drove us to the dock so we could take our boat ride from the island of Maui to the island of Lanai. After we finished the swim, he picked us up. He took us to his ranch on Maui, and he and his wife Jill were just so wonderful and so gracious. And that right there is an absolute dream come true, to be able to meet a living legend, and for that living legend to serve us with such humility. It really means that the things that I have learned, he is embodying those same things, which is really proof. That's the proof of that concept, that he has done so much in the world of Hawaii Channel swimming. And he's done that and found a similar path that I have.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, one of the motivations for me to do this swim. Again, I was looking at really big things. In 2023, I swam the Kauai Channel, which is 28 miles. It's part of the Ocean 7. And it was a swim that I had dreamed about for many years. And I knocked that out on my first try, which is really unique. Usually the world's best swimmers, they only have a 30% probability of getting a finish their first try. Terry Dietz was my feeder for that, and she was just so wonderful, so accommodating, and she's a huge reason why I was able to finish that. And on this particular swim, Terry started out by my side. She was my tandem swimmer, and that cold water I told you about, she got hypothermia in the temperature of the water, which was 74 degrees. And I'm so glad on that boat that I had an emergency medical technician to care for her and to bring her back. When I finished my swim at the end, she was just incredibly healthy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And
I think that's what the world of ultra is about, where people are finding these like-minded souls and making those lifelong connections and helping each other out, for just giving you advice for your next one, or actually being there and being on board with your crew. Like, it's the way it goes. And that's why people go back time after time.
It really is. And, when I saw this starting out, when I knew Terry would join me on this one, I had 2 ways to win. One way was I finished with Terry by her side, and we both get out of the water together, and we both finish Triple Maui Nui. My other way is I reach my limit, I get back in the boat, and I get to see Terry finish this race. I mean, it just, it worked out where I was the lone finisher, but it easily could have been the other way.
Yeah. Well, let's get into leg 3 here.
Yeah.
This translates into the slowness. Now, I'm guessing being your final leg, you're many hours in, maybe you are moving a little slower, or perhaps you're just experiencing it slower because you want to take it all in.
No, we've got some.
What was the third leg like for you?
We've actually got some quantified data for that, right? And so we count strokes. And so it's every hand splash on the water per minute. And so, the first channel, in our channel, we start and, the hand is hitting the water. And in the time span of a minute, I get 56 strokes, 55 strokes, 54 strokes, dead on consistent, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to the Kalolo channel and we start getting into the high 40s, 49, 48, and then we're into the slowness. And then we see 44. So it lived up to the billing of its name.
Yeah. How often are you changing strokes while you're out there just to change the muscle movements?
Yeah, I love freestyle. And so freestyle is my go-to. And we start by tradition. We don't do a feed until 1 hour into the swim by tradition. And then we decided we're going to do feeds every 40 minutes thereafter. So when they call me over to do the feed, and so I'm swimming beside the kayak, and then when it's time to feed, they call me over. They get my attention and they say, here's the feed line. We're dropping the line in. It's food on a 50-foot rope, right? It's in water bottles. I take all my nutrition via liquid. And I swim over to the boat. And so when I swim over, I do some breaststroke. I do the feed. I'm doing egg beater kicks so that I can get my hands out of the water so I can get the food. It's actually physically draining because now I'm trying to drink a fluid really quick. So I'm breathing as little as possible to get that fluid into my stomach as quick as possible. And then going away from the boat, I'll do the breaststroke. And then I'll go back to freestyle. So that's where I do the change up with the breaststroke. Coming off the island, really, my captain thought it was really cool, but the reason on that second channel crossing when I finished that on Molokai, the reason I started that where my very first stroke was one stroke of butterfly was because the water was shallow. I just didn't want to contact the coral.
Oh, yeah.
So I never did backstroke. So I did 3 of the 4 strokes.
Okay. Well, when you're getting into that final leg of it, where's the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to make it, and how does that feel for you?
The point at which I knew I was going to make it was when I had 6.2 miles to go, and so my observer, Michelle Simmons, who is a frequent qualifier of the Ironman World Championship. So some of your folks may know her. She's a lot of fun. She shouted at me and she says, "Ted, only a 10K to go. You do these all the time." And I thought, well, that's beautiful, Michelle. That means I've swum 28 miles and I got 6 to go, 6.2 to go. And I thought, oh, this is going to be tough, right? So professionals, they have an amazing ability to forget. And so here, if I'm going to kind of step up into that pro realm, I've got to forget about the 28 miles I've just swam, pretend that didn't happen, and focus on the remaining 6 and just be in the moment right now, which actually feels pretty good.
Yeah. Well, again, that comes back to your hammer. You just gotta live what you say.
Indeed. Yeah, we're definitely overriding our evolutionary governor right now. Our evolutionary governor is saying, man, you're toast. Get back in the boat. And I would say, no, I'm good.
So you're heading in, you're in your last 10K. You're feeling good. You're like, I got a chance here. I'm gonna make this. But maybe there's still a little bit of doubt. That there's going to be a hard landing at the beach, possibly. But you can take a sign. You can take a sign from within the depths of the ocean. What happened out there that gave you a little bit more enlightenment?
Yeah, Larry, thanks so much for asking. So, I know this is the last 10K, and being a swimmer in the ocean, you lose a lot of your senses. My ears fill up with water, so my hearing is not that great. I actually have the daylight is back out, and so the sun is back out. Nice. And I can see 200 feet down in the water, but the ocean's 600 feet deep, and there's nothing to see. So it's a lot of sensory deprivation. But there was something that really, really cool happened. I'm swimming along, and since I'm a scuba diver, I like to always look for something kind of unique and exciting. and I swim over something that I don't recognize. I see something that's kind of gray and murky, and I say, well, that's got to be somehow some topography on the bottom of the ocean. But I'm catching a glimpse of something that's kind of white, blue, bumpy, big, and I don't know what it is. I say to myself, is it a sea snake? No, it's much too big, much too thick for that. And then I think, is it a severed tentacle for some kind of battle between maybe a sperm whale and a giant octopus or giant squid? And I said, no, the water's not deep enough for that. And so I have no idea what it is. But I have looked, and I've shown that I've got a lot of curiosity as to what this is. So about 2 or 3 minutes later, I'm swimming along, and up from the depth, there's a large animal that comes into my range of view. In fact, I can tell as it gets pretty close, it is about 12 feet in length, and it's about 12 feet below me.
Uh-oh.
And I look down at it. First thing I think to myself is, I've never seen a shark that looks like that before. This is a quite large shark, but something seems off. And the visual reference was, it kind of looks like a Boeing 747, but an organic version of it. And I looked again as soon as it turned its head to the side, and I said, oh, I know what that is. That is a baby whale. Uh-huh. That is a baby humpback whale that is 12 feet below me, and it's swimming at my pace, which means it has deliberately slowed down. So when I turned my head to look, what I was seeing was the back end of its fluke that does have white patches and blue patches, part of its camouflage for items looking up at it. And it is an absolutely remarkable moment to be able to swim with a baby whale.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that the parents of that baby allowed me to be that close, and each of those parents weighs 40 tons.
Yeah, that would be the scary part, is like, where's mama?
Right. And I did see her.
That mouth is opening behind me right now, isn't it?
I did see her. I saw her. She was about less than 200 feet ahead of me. So mother and father, I did see both of them. And then behind us, we had 7 or 8 adults in the pod that were shooting their spouts, and they were slapping the water, and they were having a good time. Yeah. And I said to myself, this is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen under the water. It's the best animal encounter I've ever had as a swimmer or a scuba diver. Mm-hmm. And I said, I may never see something quite like this before or ever again. And it left. And then a few minutes later, it came back. So we did a total of 5 separate swims, each of which lasted about 2 minutes. Oh. And it was the second swim that, as I was breathing to my right, leaning into the water, I caught the left eye of the whale that was peering up at me, and our left eyes met. Uh-huh. And it was just the coolest thing to make eye contact with the whale. And you look somebody in the eye, and you get a sense of the depth of the intelligence they had. And this is an incredibly intelligent animal. And I could see that, feel that, sense that. And we had this kinship that developed. And so, that's my guide. And it was just a really cool, this is my protection. This is my guide. And the whales, this whale was just born, but, the parents, they've seen this 3 times over. They saw it when Harry Hoffaker did this swim 36 years ago. They saw it, which was 1989. They saw this when Becca Mann did this swim. That was 2019, and now they're seeing it with me. It's this third human they've seen make this remarkable journey. It's a migration that spans 3 islands in last single 24-hour period. So I think there was certainly some kinship, a lot of trust, and certainly this almost unique bond that I had with this intelligent animal that was just incredibly impactful, profound.
Yeah, that's and for you to have that baby just like right under you to guide you is like following the lane.
Yes, that was my lane line. Was a baby whale.
Yeah, that would be an amazing experience. Yeah.
It was very cool.
Congratulations on that one. Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You said that at the end of it, you had a feeling that would equate to walking on broken glass. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. So at the end of it, and I had this feeling, and it was a tangible feeling. So Mike Spalding said to me, because Mike The first man to ever do this swim did this swim in calendar year 1989. Harry Hoffaker. He was one of the world's best Hawaii Channel swimmers, and he was so prolific. He was the first to swim that Ali Nui Haha Channel that I told you about that both Tina and Mike had also swam.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was his dream. He had swam each of these channels individually many times, and so this was his dream to link them all into a single swim. And he attempted it. He got about 3 miles from the finish, but he never was able to get that finish.
Oh.
And it's really important to get that finish. Mike Spalding was on his boat at the time, and so he had that, and he lived that experience. He did it all, and he really, really wanted me to get that experience, being the first man to actually do this. Becca Mann had done this, proving it to be possible, but no man had ever finished this, and it would be really cool to get a second swimmer to do that. But there was one thing he told me that was really a matter of caution. He said, Ted, when you get to Shipwreck Beach, which is your landing point, your crew is going to do everything they can to get you a safe landing. They may not be able to achieve that. You may have to walk out, cross the coral, and exit the beach. But if that's the case, you should do that to get the finish of the swim. And I said, okay. I said, won't that cut my feet? He's like, yes, it will. And I said, okay. And I said, I'm just going to put this in the back of my mind. I don't need to think about it. I realized, we've got a plan. We've got an alternative plan to finish. If we can't get that time just right, if we can't get that ideal spot. And so lo and behold, there's no need to think about it now. I'll think about it at the moment. So in the back of my mind, in the deep recesses of my mind, there's been this thought, I might have to do something equivalent to walking on glass if I really want to get this finish. And so we're about to finish, and Captain Andy Joka, he says to me, because we're getting really, really close to the shore at Shipwreck Beach. It's one of the ones where, again, we're navigating through the maze, right? We're looking down into the coral, finding the path through that's the safest path. And he says to me, he says, Ted, we're getting really close. This is really dangerous. I need you to do exactly what I do. When you see me move the kayak, you must move as quick as I'm moving and stay with me. If you don't do that, you can get seriously injured. And I said, wow, that's pretty heavy. I said, Andy, I will do exactly that. Terry has jumped in the water, and she can help me for things. And she comes over and she says, Ted, congratulations. You finished the Triple Maui Nui. I said, Terry, I'm not out of the beach. This is the hardest part. And she looks at me and she says, Ted, no, this is the fun part. And she's done this channel many times before, and she's got this happy-go-lucky. And she says, look, if you see some coral, you just turn around, you come back, and you try to find another path in. It's fun. And I said, great, Terry. I said, Captain Andy will be over here. I'll be right here, and I want you over here, and we'll have like a 15-foot window by which the three of us will be placed. I'll be safely in the middle. And so not only was I safely between the two of them, but in terms of kind of the mindset each of them had, an occupation with safety and a focus on safety that my captain had, and a focus on fun and excitement that Terry Dietz had. And I was right in the middle. And so I was right in the middle in terms of my mind frame as well.
That's nice to have that balance on your crew.
It was pretty cool.
Tell us what's coming up next. What you've got these big plans, or is that it? You're going to retire? Oh,
I'm a ways away from retiring. I'm just having too much fun at what I'm doing. So, gosh, I've done some really fun things. One of the things that I've done, and I think is kind of smart, I put some parameters on it so I know when I'm done, and my family gets a good feel for it. But if I want to get to 36, which I do, of my iron distance triathlon finishes, I've got one more to get to that goal that's been on the plate for many, many years. And so coming up in September of this year, I am going to attempt to do Ironman Chattanooga, which is in my backyard, given that I'm from Nashville, Franklin, and really looking forward to that event. It's a beautiful course. For anybody that's a little bit intimidated by swimming, it's one of the fastest swims of any Ironman circuit. It's even faster than Cozumel, which I've done several times and is really cool. And I like the bike. I'm an avid cyclist. I love cycling, and you get 4 bonus miles. At least historically, they've given us 4 bonus miles. So instead of 112, they took it to 116.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, and up and over. It's just, the beautiful rolling hills of Chattanooga. It's just a
yeah.
really beautiful course. Running over the bridge to finish it, just a cool course.
Awesome. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. And any great ultra events that you're starting to plan or you don't want to share yet?
No, it's not that I don't want to share. One of the ones that I've completed recently, I did this snowdrop 55-hour race, and it is a really cool experience. If you've got some folks that have said, look, I've done 2 marathons in 12 hours, what would it be like? What could I do if I had 55 hours to run as far as I want? That would be that event. The first prize they give out is at 100 miles. What I loved about it is 55 miles. My distance was 100 miles. That's what I chose. Walked away with a belt buckle, right? Buckle up, Buttercup. It was just so cool. Absolutely loved it. I remember when the race director handed me that belt buckle, they said, Ted, are you coming back next year? I said, no. It's a hard no. And, it's a race that raises money for kids that endured cancer. And I have a soft spot in my heart for that. And it's allowed me in that race to run for somebody other than myself. And so that's what gives it that specialness. And so I came back 3 years. And so I did that 3 years in a row. And I got that buckle 3 years in a row. And so that was a really special achievement for me. And so I completed that 3-part set. So I like to do things with numbers that are symbolic to me. As far as Hawaii goes, I made a commitment earlier this year that I'm going to swim 5 channels in Hawaii. I've done the Kaiwi. It was really cool to be able to knock out 3 channels in a single swim. So now my tally is 4. I've got 1 more to go.
Ah, okay. So back to Hawaii again it is.
I love it so much. Yeah, a set of 5 Hawaiian channel finishes would just be the coolest.
Well, Ted, you are certainly living by your personal motto. You've been dreaming big. You've been living your dream. And we thank you for sharing your dream with us today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Larry, it's an absolute delight. Great to talk to your audience. I'm sure hoping you've got some folks out there that are willing to take their swims to the next level. And Hawaii is such a beautiful place to make that happen. I know I've got folks standing at the ready. Andy Joka would love to help. Terry Dietz would absolutely love to help. Stephen Managlia, he would love to help. I've got so many people that would love to help. So if there's anybody in your audience that's thinking about it, absolutely do.
All right. Well, I'll put your contact information in the show notes and we can get them all set up. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Larry. Great talking to you, my friend.
You too. Thanks.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.